Welcome to Business Analyst Role, AI versus Traditional Software Projects Quick Bite video from Insurance Domain Training Center. In this video, we explain the activities and documentation required in AI projects compared to traditional software projects.
So, the role of the business analyst, it's kind of at a crossroads, isn't it? We're all seeing projects shift from that traditional software we know and love over to AI. And the big question is, how does our job actually change? Or does it change at all? If you're a BA trying to figure out where you fit in this whole AI world, you're in exactly the right place.
Okay, let's just get it out there. This is the question that's probably been floating around in the back of your mind. With AI automating so many things, are roles like ours, on the way out? Well, the short answer is a big, resounding no. But the role is definitely evolving, and understanding that evolution is absolutely the key. So, let's break it all down.
All right, so before we jump into all the new stuff, let's just start on familiar ground. In any traditional software project, a BA's world is built on documents we know inside and out, right? The business requirements document, the BRD, user stories, use cases. This is our playbook. But how does that playbook hold up when suddenly there's an AI model sitting right in the middle of your project? And here's the first big reveal. Your core tools, the things you use every single day, they don't just disappear in AI projects, they expand. Take the user story, for example. A classic one might be, as a claims officer, I want to see flag suspicious claims so that I can investigate them. Super simple, super clear. For an AI project, that core story stays exactly the same, but we add a new layer, a set of acceptance criteria that actually define how the AI model should behave.
So what are these new acceptance criteria? Well, they usually fall into three main buckets. First up, model behavior. You've got to define the trigger, like, say, flagging any claim with a fraud probability that's over 70%. Second, confidence display. You need to make the model's thinking visible to the user, maybe by showing them that 70% score. And third, and this is so important, a fallback. You have to define what happens when the model just isn't sure. In this case, if the confidence is below 40%, we just route it for a good old-fashioned manual review. See? The user story doesn't change. It just gets a whole lot smarter. And it's not just user stories. The real cornerstone of our work, the business requirements document, it also gets a pretty serious upgrade. But it's not replaced by some crazy complex technical document you've never seen before. Instead, we restructure it into what people are starting to call an AI BRD.
The cool part is that the structure of an AI BRD builds directly on the traditional one you already know how to write. That first section, business context, identical. But then we bolt on some critical new sections. We have to scope the AI solution, like why are we even using AI here in the first place? We define the expected outcomes, like a target accuracy for the model. We get really specific about data requirements. And of course, we specify the model's behavior. The classic integration and testing sections, they're still there. They've just been expanded to handle the model.
Now, a really key part of defining those expected outcomes is learning to translate model errors into real-world business impact. A false positive, that's when you flag a genuine good customer. That creates a terrible user experience. A false negative, that's when you miss a real case of fraud. Well, that causes direct financial loss. The BA's job here is to lead that business discussion, to decide which one of those errors is worse and what an acceptable tolerance for each one is. This is purely a business decision, not a technical one.
So you're probably starting to see the pattern here, right? The BRD evolves by adding a few new sections, the user stories evolve by adding model-specific criteria, and the test plan naturally evolves to include stuff like model performance testing. In every single case, the foundation is something you already know. Your existing skills are the launchpad for this evolution.
Okay, so if the documents are just evolving, what about the thinking behind them? Now, this is where it gets really, really powerful. The kind of requirements thinking you need for AI, it isn't actually new at all. It's structurally identical to work that BAs have been doing for decades in other fields that use probability models, like, say, insurance. Let that one sink in for a minute. The way you need to think to define requirements for some black box AI system is the exact same way that BAs and actuaries have thought about probability and risk models for years. You define the inputs, you define what a successful outcome looks like, and you define the business rules for what to do with whatever the model spits out.
Let's make this super concrete. Just look at this direct comparison. What we used to call actuarial risk scoring is now called a classification model. What we called input variables are now features. A probability of a claim is now a prediction probability, and an acceptable error margin is now a model accuracy threshold. The words have changed, sure, but the core logic and your role in defining all of it, it's exactly the same.
In fact, you could honestly say that a full 80% of the requirements gathering skill set, that foundational thinking from traditional projects, it transfers directly to AI projects. The vast majority of what you already know how to do is not just relevant, it's absolutely essential. So you're probably asking, okay, what about that other 20%? Well, that's where AI really extends beyond those old school models. This is the new stuff. It's about dealing with unstructured data, things like text and images, not just neat rows and columns. It includes planning for a model that continuously learns and needs retraining. And it addresses that growing pressure for explainability. You know, the need for the model to actually justify its decisions, which is fast becoming a legal and regulatory requirement.
And all of this brings us to the most important point of this entire explainer. Your core business analyst skills are not becoming obsolete. They are the fundamental building blocks for the future of business. They're being future-proofed, not thrown away.
The message here is really that simple. This is not some massive revolution where you have to toss out everything you know and start all over again. No way. It's an evolution. Your BRD just grows a few new logical sections. Your user stories just add a couple more lines to the acceptance criteria. The foundation that you have built your entire career on is exactly what's needed right now.
And that is the key takeaway. If you are a business analyst looking at this new world of AI and feeling a little intimidated, just remember this. You are not starting from zero. Your ability to talk to the business, to understand the context, to define outcomes, and to ask all the right questions, that's more valuable today than it has ever been.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. When you look at your own personal toolkit of BA skills, stakeholder management, requirement solicitation, process modeling, which one of those old skills will you choose to consciously evolve for this new era of AI? The opportunity ahead of us is absolutely immense. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for watching the Quick Bite series from www.insuedot.com. Please like and subscribe to our videos for you to get notification when we upload new videos.